Rebbe to learn Hilchos Beis HaBchira. We just heard out the Sikha. It should be Torah B'tzibur, Tzedakah B'tzibur, and Tefillah B'tzibur. So everybody should give Tzedakah now B'tzibur. And to learn Hilchos Beis HaBchira today, we have the honor and schus to have a member of the Anhola Yeshiva G'deila in the Menalim in Yeshiva G'deila, Rav Shmuel Cramer, which will give us some insight into the building of the Beis HaMikdash. Rav Shmuel Cramer, b'vakasha.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank Avzeri Choshev Geman, Rav Shmuel Zalmanov, for organizing it every night, learning of Beis HaBchira. It's Mekayim, the Rebbe Seiro, as well as spoiled certain pullers, as we'll soon see. Well, learning Torah is always a good thing. Especially in the 3 weeks, it's even more special. Why? Because seeing the Mishpati Pader B'Shaveh B'Tztokah, through learning Torah, that's how Yerushalayim Eretz Yisrael will become Pader, seeing the Mishpati Pader, which is learning Torah, B'Shaveh B'Tztokah, Tztokah also. And especially learning about the Hilchos Beis HaBchira, as we'll soon elaborate on. There's a Tanchumeh. The Medrash Tanchumeh says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, it's long, but it says, Rav Shmuel Tarabah said that Eibusher said to the Yidden, even though the Beis HaMikdash is going to be destroyed, and there won't be any more kabbanis, but still they should learn about the kabbanis, and it will be Maile Al Ni'alechem Kilu B'Kabbanis Atem Moiskim. And they bring a raya because the Eibishter told Yecheskel Adnovi, he showed him the Tzuras Abayis, he showed him what the Beis HaMikdash and all the measurements should look like, and he told him he should tell the Yidden, he should give over to the Yidden the measurements. And Yecheskel asked the Eibishter, he said, what's the use? They can't anyway build the Beis HaMikdash. What's the use of giving them all the blueprints and all the details? He said, better wait when they're going to build the Beis HaMikdash, I'll give it to them then. So the Eibishter said, no, he should tell them, because while they're learning about the Binyan Beis HaMikdash, it will be, even though they're in Golus, Yehei Binyan Beisi, it won't be bottled. They'll be as if they're building the Beis HaMikdash. So l'chayri, you would think that learning about the Beis HaMikdash is very similar, like as if you built it, but it's not the same. But since Torah says that learning Hilchos Beis HaBchira is as if you were building it, so it comes out that when we are learning about Hilchos Beis HaBchira, learning about the Beis HaMikdash, how to build it and all the details about it, we are actually building the Beis HaMikdash right now. It's al derech, like kol ha'isik b'teira seila, ki'ilu hikri v'oila. It's not as if that you're Isaac in Korban Oila. It's as if you brought the Oila, but it's mamish as if you're bringing an Oila. And that's why we find certain halachas in davening where we say Korbanos. There's certain halachas whether you like to say it at night or if you have to say it standing, because it's as if you're doing the avodah of bringing a korban. And that's the same thing by learning Beis HaBchira. We are building the Beis HaMikdash. And the Yeshleim Rebbe says that there's a mitzvah v'osku mikdash v'shachanti b'soichom. We have to build the Beis HaMikdash. So that mitzvah wasn't only for the generation of the Yidden in the Midbar that had to build a Mishkan, or later on to build the Beis HaMikdash. And it's not Negeya now the Deiris. No, it is Negeya, because how do we build the Beis HaMikdash now? We don't have the ability to build the Beis HaMikdash, but through learning about the Beis HaMikdash, that's how we build it. How you might ask, it's not the same. When they were building the Beis HaMikdash, you saw they put a brick and another brick, a stone and this, and it got built. But now we don't see anything. We're learning, but we don't see that the Beis HaMikdash is actually being built. So we don't see how the Beis HaMikdash is being built. That we are going to see later. later when Mashiach comes, we'll see the Beis Hamikdash that we built now during the years of Golus. And this is also Merumiz. And before every Sefer Rambam, the Rambam brings down a posuk from Tanakh. And before the Sefer Avodah talks about the Hilchos Beis Abchira and the Avodah Beis Hamikdash, the Rambam brings down the posuk Shalu Shloim Yerushalayim Mishloim Avoich. He says Shalu, we should ask, we should seek out the peace of Yerushalayim. What means Yerushalayim? What's the main focal point of Yerushalayim? That's the Beis Hamikdash. And he uses the Lashon Shalu, which is a dibur. We have to talk about the Beis Hamikdash, to say learning about the Beis Hamikdash, and that's how the Maram is, that even though the Beis Hamikdash is now Choreb, how do we rebuild it? By learning about it. And we find this thing that even though we don't have the Beis Hamikdash, but it's still learning about it is like building it. We find in different halach, different dinim. We find about tshuva. Right? Tshuva, somebody, unfortunately, somebody did something that he shouldn't do, so you have to do tshuva. Tshuva is you have to do vidu. You say chatosi, avisi, peshaiti. You say what you did. You say you decided you're not going to do it again. You're not going to do any averis again. So in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, on top of all that, you have to also bring a korban. But today that we don't have Beis Hamikdash, so you have complete tshuva. You have even without the korban. Even without the korban, you have exactly the same kind of tshuva like you had in the time of the Beis Hamikdash when you used to bring a korban. Just as an aside, the Rebbe says it's Orochim because Rabbi Shmuel said he wrote down in his book. I don't know exactly what he did, but he wrote down in his book that when the Beis Hamikdash will be built, he'll bring a chatos shmeina from something that he did. So l'chayri, you see that it's not complete. So the Rebbe says, first of all, it's a tzorchi and maybe on Rabbi Shmuel, because you don't find anyone else that said that they're going to bring a korban later when the Beis Hamikdash is built. Only Rabbi Shmuel. So Mele Vice states that it's Bishleim is the tshuva even without the korban. And this Telechagavi says that maybe he could transfer, because in the time of Rabbi Shmuel there was a possibility to build the Beis Hamikdash then, so that's why he said that if the Beis Hamikdash will be built, he'll bring a korban. But today, when there's no possibility, so you have complete tshuva, even though you don't have a korban. Al derech zeh, to become a ger, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, you had to have mila, you have to go to the mikveh, to make a bris, and you have to bring a korban. But today, you can't bring korbanos, and to be a ger is a complete ger, even though he doesn't bring a korban, and he's including even all the mitzvahs. The Rebbe says that this, what it says that a ger later will have to bring a korban, is not to be mashlim, but it's for another reason that he has to bring a korban. But the gerus is b'shleimus, even though you don't have the korban. So al derech zeh, even though we don't have the Beis Hamikdash and we're not fixing the Beis Hamikdash, we're not doing, but still, but by learning, it's mamish like building the Beis Hamikdash. And with this, the Rebbe says, we'll understand that we'll understand something else. It says, b'negei the Beis Hamikdash l'osid, there's a discussion how it's going to come about. Will it be built by a person, by Mashiach? Mashiach will build the Beis Hamikdash, or it will be min hashamayim, it will come down. So one of the ways how you could reconcile these two opinions is that there's two parts to the Beis Hamikdash. One part is that we know how to build, because we're learning now the Beis Hamikdash, we know how to build it. So all that will be built by Mashiach, because that's going to be clear. But there's certain parts that are not clear, we don't know what to do. So that part will be built by the Eibusher, will come down in Hashemayim. Or in another way is that we'll build it the way as much as we know. and then Mashiach will be Megalit, those parts that we don't know, he'll be Megalit. He'll be Megalit to be Mashlim the Beis HaMikdash, and will be built by a person. And then Milmailo will come down, and the Beis HaMikdash Milmailo will be infused in the Beis HaMikdash that we built. And this is the Dugmas in Al-Derech. There was a fire on the Mizbeach, and even though even though the fire came Milmailo, nevertheless, it was a mitzvah. You had to light the fire on the mizbeach. You have to do it manually. How could it be the two things? Because they made a fire, but there was a fire that came on Milo, it infused it on the fire that was there. And the same thing will be by the Beis HaMikdash. That will build it, but the Beis HaMikdash on Milo will come down and will come be infused in the Beis HaMikdash. So from all this, it comes out for a person how much it's important to learn the Torah Sabayis and the Tzura Sabayis and to know all the details, especially now in the time of the 3 weeks, the Ben Absorim, when it was the Churban Beis HaMikdash. So the yearning for the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash is so much more. Therefore, how much more important it is that we should be learning these inyonim. And like I said, by learning these inyonim, we are actually building it, even though you don't see the results. I guess it's like every mitzvah that you do, your mamshech hagili elukus here in the world, you bring down godliness into the world. You don't see it. A person puts on film, the world looks the same before and after. But that's only because we don't see it. But it's actually happening that the likus comes down with every mitzvah that we do. And the same thing is by learning the Beis HaMikdash, learning the halachos of the Beis HaMikdash, we are actually building the Beis HaMikdash, even though we don't see it right now. But when Mashiach comes, b'mheira v'yameinu, we'll see how all our learning added to the actual building of the Beis HaMikdash that happened tonight.
Just to remind everybody again, we still need people for siyumim. Some volunteers, some people that go out from the hidden